Hello, my name is TJ Lee. I am the writer for the Sturgeon Universe for Dusklight Radio, its humble janitor, and I'm here to explain to you in under 60 seconds what we're doing here. If you've come over because of the algorithm, welcome. Normally we have these radio-style introductions by our undead host, Everett Blackwell. Those are still going to be here. However, for the next 30 days, outside of a couple of special uploads, we're going to be doing a 30 and 30 challenge to see if the algorithm responds well to daily content posting, and the aim is to show high-quality, horror-based content that you're already used to, but doing that on a daily basis. We've got a schedule all through the next 4 weeks. Vidith is also going to be doing this, and we're really excited to see how well this responds on the metrics. If you like this and you support it, all I ask is that you engage with the content, drop a like, comment, let me know your thoughts, and maybe check out the Patreon if you want to support us. It's as little as $1 a month, and we've got a Discord with a community there. Thank you so much for choosing Dusklight Radio, and I really hope you enjoyed the content. Oh, and stick around at the end because that is where we'll have our typical outros with Patreon shoutouts. Thanks. My grandfather, Lorenzo Romano, was a detective in Los Angeles in the 70's. When I was growing up, he would babysit me while my father worked. My mother had killed herself when I was a few months old, and my grandmother had died a few years before I was born, so it was just me, my father, and my grandfather. During those hours that I spent with him, my grandfather would tell me about all the cases he worked, things that happened to him or his friends, and funny memories that he had from being on the force. Most of his stories were pretty standard. A few dumb kids were arrested for stupid things, he worked undercover narcotics for a while, he worked a big drug case, and all in all, got a lot of stories from all of the years that he spent working for the LAPD. I was 15 when he first told me the story about the mother. My grandfather was 68 at the time, and it was a day where school had been cancelled due to a snowstorm. My father still had to go to work, and so I had the entire morning with my grandfather. He made us coffee, black for him, cream for me, and toasted up some blueberry bagels for us to eat breakfast. After we ate, I took our dishes to the sink.
Hey Ellie, have I ever told you about the mother?
I shook my head as I took my seat again, across the table from my grandfather. He crossed his arms and then leaned them on the table, leaning in closer to me.
It was 1976 or so, mid-November, when we got the first call. It was a little girl. I still remember her. Her name was Andrea. She wasn't any older than 6 years old. She called because her mother hadn't come out of her room for the whole day, and nobody else was home.
I nodded and leaned in as well, immediately engrossed in my father's tale.
Well, me and my partner, Andrew Winston, drive over there to go check it out. So we get to the house. It's this really big house, too. Really nice, with a nice car parked outside in the driveway. Anyway, Winston and me, we get out and we knock on the door, letting the little girl know that we're the police. A few minutes pass and the door opens, and sure enough, there's a little girl there. She's wearing pajamas, and her hair is all wild and messy, like when children first wake up, you know? She's got those big green eyes, and she looks weirdly calm about all of this. So we ask her if we can go inside to check on her mom, and she lets us in. Now, I stay with the girl downstairs because I know worst case scenario. The mother is dead as a doornail upstairs, and no kid should have to see that. So I stay down there with the kid, who's just playing with these stuffed animals like nothing is wrong.
My grandfather stops at this point to take a drink of water.
So I'm sitting there with the kid, and a few minutes go by, and I haven't heard a word from Winston. So I decide I need to go up there and check out what's going on. So I tell the little girl to stay down there while I go upstairs to check on Winston.
Did Winston die? I asked. My grandfather shook his head.
No, he wasn't dead, but he sure looked like he was. He was standing there, facing the little girl's mom, who was dead. She had hanged herself and slit her wrists. On the wall behind her, it said, "Hello, Mother," in shaky letters, written in blood. But there was no way in all of hell that she had only been in there for one day. After I looked around the room, I walked over to Winston, who was white as a ghost, standing there in the middle of the room. I shook him and slapped him a bit until he responded. And when he finally did, all he said was, "It was the mother," and started weeping like a baby. I had to drag him out of there.
What happened to the little girl? I asked him as he drank some more water.
Well, she was fine, but when we asked her how long her mom had been in that room, she said it was only one day. We asked her why she hadn't called us earlier, and she said that her babysitter had been taking care of her. We tried asking the girl what her babysitter's name was, but she couldn't tell us. Kept saying that she didn't know. We asked her what her babysitter looked like, but she said the same thing, that she didn't know.
So where did she go? What about her mom? How long had she been dead? I asked, greedy for answers.
Patience, Ellie. All in good time. We found out later that the mom had actually been dead for over a week, but the little girl swore that it had only been one day since her mom had gone into that room. So we tried asking her about the mother. We wanted to know what that meant, if it was something that the little girl shared with her mom, or if it was some sort of signature used by a serial killer.
And did the girl know who the mother was?
She said the mother was a friend, that her mom had told her that the mother helped people to escape. But she wouldn't tell us who exactly this mother was or how she helped people. We found no other evidence at the crime scene. No DNA, no fingerprints, no sign of breaking and entering. Nothing. It was as if the mom had just killed herself without an explanation and left a weird message on the wall.
But how did she cut herself and have time to write the message and hang herself?
Nah. Exactly, Ellie. How did she manage all of that? There was no trail of blood from the wall to the body, only a pool of blood underneath it.
So what happened?
Well, we never found out. But a few months after that, Winston was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. His wife said he was going crazy. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, and he kept talking about his mother.
Maybe she meant the mother.
I think that's exactly what she meant. After Winston had been in the hospital for a few weeks, he died. He killed himself, slit his wrists, and drowned in the bathtub. The nurses insisted that they never left him alone in the tub, but that's how he died. And on the tub, written in blood, were the words, "Hello, Mother."
I shifted in my seat, starting to get a little bit scared and not wanting my grandfather to stop mid-story.
Well, there was a whole investigation. But again, no evidence, DNA, fingerprints, or anything else. It seemed as if Winston really had killed himself, except the blood on the outside of the tub was still wet when the nurses discovered it. But by that time, Winston had been dead for a few hours. Again, though, we found nothing, and it ended up sitting there along with the first death unsolved.
So what did you do?
Well, Ellie, I decided that I was going to work this case and find out what was going on. I thought it might be a serial killer, and I wanted to catch them for killing my partner. So, I worked the case for about a month before another death happened. This time, it was a teenager who was found dead in a butcher shop. He was young. I believe he was a high school kid, and he was hanging on a meat hook, suspended by his mouth. His wrists had been cut, and on the wall behind him was the same message: "Hello, Mother." Now, my boss really wants someone to solve this case and catch the killer. So me and a few others began looking for clues again. One day in July, I got a call from a woman who was being attacked in her home. She wouldn't describe the attacker, just kept saying it was the mother. I drove over to the house as fast as I could, and when I got in, I saw it. I saw the mother.
Who was she?
Well, it wasn't a she, that's for sure. I'm still not sure what it was, but I saw it standing there, killing the woman who I had gone to help. I was frozen in place, unable to move, and this thing was disgusting. It was tall. It was all crouched down, but its back still touched the ceiling, and it had long, stringy hair that was gray and brittle. Its skin was light green with brown patches that were oozing out some sort of brown goo. It looked right at me. It had giant black eyes, and that's when I noticed the woman's body hanging from the ceiling fan behind it. Then it reached over with one of its long fingers and slit the woman's wrist. It waddled over to the wall and wrote, "Hello, Mother," in it, with the woman's blood.
And did the mother do anything to you? I asked, fearing for my grandfather.
Well, I wouldn't be here if it had, dear Ellie,
he pointed out. Oh, right.
But I don't remember seeing it leave. It just vanished. So I called it in, and they investigated the crime scene. And they said the woman had been dead for a few days now. But that was impossible. I had just seen her alive. Of course, I wasn't going to say that. They would have sent me off like they did to Winston. But that isn't even the strangest part.
What is the strangest part?
Well, the weirdest thing was that the next day, nobody remembered it. They didn't remember the woman. They didn't remember the mother. They didn't even remember Winston. He was gone. It was like he had been erased, even from the group photos from when we graduated together. No one knew who he was. The case files were all missing too. I was the only one who remembered. And I still am.
After that one time, my grandfather never mentioned the mother again. The rest of his stories are far more lighthearted. It was like he had finally forgotten the mother, and I thought he had, until a few days ago. Last week, my grandfather died. They said it was suicide, My father called me and I made the hour-long drive from campus to my grandfather's home. They told me that he had slit his wrists and hanged himself. My mind immediately thought of the mother and all of those similar deaths he had told me about years ago. 2 days ago, my father gave me a box that my grandfather had left for me. In it were journals, all filled with things that he remembered about the cases. Everything except the victims' names. There was also a note in an envelope, addressed to me. There was a piece of paper in it, with only one thing written on it. Remember the mother. A lot of you had very similar ideas about the mother, which included tracking down Andrea, the daughter of the first victim. I tried searching schools in the area and looking through their past students to see if there were any Andreas that fit the description that my grandfather gave me, which was basically just green eyes. Andrea would have had to have been about 48, at least. There were 2 Andreas who had green eyes, and after a little bit more research, I found their Facebook pages. The first Andrea's mother was still alive, and the other Andrea's mother had died only about 6 years ago, so there was no way it was either of them. The hunt for Andrea was starting to stress me out. There are so many Andreas who live or at one point lived in LA. Instead, I moved on and began searching for Winston's wife. I knew her name was Rachel Winston. I looked her up, hoping that she was still alive, and she was. I found her on Facebook as well. Her name was Rachel Winston Lorez. She'd remarried in the 1990s and had 3 children and 5 grandkids. She had recently uploaded a picture of her and my grandfather and another man. Her caption was directed at the fact that my grandfather had just died. I decided to send her a message. This is a transcript of the conversation. Hi, my name is Elliot Romano, or Ellie for short. I'm Lorenzo's grandkid, and I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions about my grandfather. I understand if you decline. Rachel. Hello, Ellie. Lorenzo told me a lot about you. I'm so sorry for your loss, but I will do my best to answer any question you might have about your grandfather. Thank you. I'm not sure if this is out of line, but my grandfather told me about your first husband's death. I was wondering if you could tell me anything about what happened during that time. Rachel. Yes, Andrew committed suicide in a psychiatric hospital in the early January of 1976. Lorenzo and I went to go visit him the day before he died. He seemed a lot better. He wasn't freaking out the way he had been all of the other times that we visited him. I thought he was going to get out of there soon. And he did. Just not in the way that I expected. Me. I'm sorry. I know that this may sound weird, but my grandfather told me that Andrew kept mentioning the mother. He said that that was the reason why he was admitted in the first place. Rachel. How do you know about that? Me. My grandfather told me the story about the little girl and all of the other deaths. Rachel. Yes, Andrew was traumatized by this mother thing. I thought I would be helping him by putting him in the hospital. I thought he would be safe there. Your grandfather and I worked to figure out just what this thing was. But after Andrew's death, we stopped. Me. Why is that? Rachel. Because he forgot. Your grandfather didn't remember any of the research we had done. He didn't remember anything about the mother until that boy died months later. Then it was like everything had come back to him, but I wanted nothing to do with any of that anymore. Me. Can you tell me what it is that you and my grandfather found out about the mother? He left me a box of stuff, all containing details he remembered about the case, but there isn't much for me to work off of. None of the victims are named except for Winston, and I tried tracking down the daughter of the first woman who died, but I wasn't able to find anything. Rachel. Her name was Andrea Stewart. The last I checked, she was still alive. You won't get much out of her, I'm afraid. She's been in a psychiatric hospital for most of her life, after she had a series of mental breakdowns in the years following her mother's death. She won't speak to anyone anymore. Me. Do you know what hospital she's in? I'd like to go visit her. Rachel. She's at hospital in New York. Me. Thanks so much. Rachel. You're welcome. And be careful. Your grandfather had a theory. Whenever you get too close to figuring out something about the mother, it steals your memories. Try to remember. Remember the mother. Note: I've removed the name of the hospital above for privacy reasons. After that message, Rachel went offline and she hasn't gone back on since then. I thought about what she said, and the information that my grandfather left me, combined with these updates, should be enough for me to not forget anything major. I've also been leaving other pieces of paper with important information in places that I know I'll stumble upon. My car, the notes app on my phone, inside some of my favorite books, in Word documents on my laptop, and in my backpack, to name a few. After a quick search, I learned that Andrea had been adopted by her aunt after her mother's death. A few years after that, she was admitted into a hospital in Los Angeles, and then she was moved to another hospital about a year later. After that, the updates stopped. I was thinking about how the hell I was supposed to get to New York on the budget of a college student. I think I really need to try and at least speak to Andrea, but that seemed to be getting more and more impossible. I'm going to be staying home with my dad for the next few weeks, however, keeping up with my classes online. I've asked my dad if my grandfather ever told him about the story of the mother, but he said no.
He told me a few of his cop stories, like the one about the old woman who was robbing people in grocery store parking lots, but no, I don't remember anything about a mother.
I decided to ask him about my grandfather's partner, Winston, but my father didn't seem to remember him. I pulled up the picture from Rachel's Facebook, assuming that the second man in the photo had been Winston, and showed it to my father.
Nope. Sorry, Els. He doesn't look familiar and his name isn't ringing any bells. Maybe your grandfather never told me about him. But wait.
My father took the phone from me.
This is Rachel, right? I know this woman. She'd come over all the time to have lunch at our house. She gave me a small wooden toy horse once.
But you don't remember her husband?
I don't think she was married.
I took my phone back. Yeah, she was. To Winston. Andrew Winston. My father looked like he was thinking about it for a while before he sighed and shook his head.
Sorry. I don't remember her ever being married. That's weird. I don't know what to tell you, Ellie.
I stopped asking him about it after that. I'm not really sure where else to go from here. I've been reading through my grandfather's journals and I'm about halfway through the first one. A lot of the information in them is repetitive. He mentions details of the first case constantly. Things like the message and the fact that the victim's wrists were all cut were listed every few pages. I thought about what Rachel said about my grandfather having forgotten about the mother for a while, and I'm starting to doubt that the journals would help me. What if he never wrote down the one piece of information that I need in order to figure this out? If he forgot it, what if he never remembered it? There isn't anything that I've found so far, but I'm hoping there's at least one more thing that my grandfather found out about the mother. It's later on in the day now, and I was just on Facebook, checking to see if Rachel was online. I was planning on asking her if the man in the picture was, in fact, Winston, but instead I found something else. On Rachel's Facebook page was a post shared by one of her children. Rachel died. She committed suicide just a few hours ago. I forgot the name of the hospital that Andrea is staying at. I only realized that I had forgotten it when I was reading all of your replies in the last post. One of them mentioned visiting Andrea in the hospital, so I scrolled through my post and, sure enough, Rachel had told me where Andrea was staying. But I no longer remembered. I had saved screenshots of my conversation with Rachel though, so after looking through those and also emailing them to myself just in case, I decided to get on the next flight to New York before I forgot something else. My plane just landed. It's early in the morning, around 1 a.m. New York time as I type this. I managed to get in contact with a friend who's going to NYU and who owns an apartment. I'm going to be staying at his place for the next 2 days. I decided I didn't want to or need to stay in New York for that long. I only needed to talk to Andrea and then go back home. I'm on my way to my friend's house now, so I'll continue to update this throughout the day, adding as more important things happen. It's 3:30 p.m. right now, and I'm sitting in a coffee shop. I just visited Andrea, and a lot happened. I thought they weren't going to let me in to see her. I'm not family after all. But I told them that my grandfather had been a friend of hers and he had recently died. They said that as long as I didn't tell Andrea about my grandfather's death, I was allowed to visit her. I only had 20 minutes to do so, though. It was one of those really fancy hospitals, like the ones that celebrities go to. They led me to Andrea's room, which had a decently sized bed, its own bathroom, and carpet. Andrea was sitting in a rocking chair in the corner, still as a doll. She had big, messy, curly hair, and she was wearing sunglasses. She was also incredibly thin. She looked old, older than a 48-year-old. "Hey, Andrea. My name is Ellie. You knew my grandfather. I was just wondering if I could talk to you for a bit." I walked over slowly, not wanting to scare her. After all, I was a stranger in her room.
She doesn't really ever talk to anyone, hun. Rarely makes any sense. She just blabbers. I wouldn't be surprised if she completely ignored you for 20 minutes.
The nurse said from behind me. I said nothing and waited for the nurse to walk away. "Can I sit here?" I asked, motioning towards the bed. Andrea very faintly nodded, and so I took a seat. "My grandfather's name was Lorenzo Romano. He was a detective with the Los Angeles police in the 1970s. He helped you once," I stuttered. I saw Andrea's lips move and she seemed to whisper something. "What?" I asked, leaning forward. I didn't catch what you said." Andrea turned her head in my direction.
"Mother,"
she said, barely above a whisper, but I definitely heard it. I got up and crouched down in front of her. "Yeah? Do you know about her?"
"Mother."
I looked behind me to make sure that the nurse wasn't within earshot. "She killed my grandfather. I just want to know what happened." Suddenly, Andrea reached out and gripped my shoulders hard.
"You'll never find her. She'll make you forget. You're one of the lucky ones. I can't forget, never. See them everywhere that I look. I see them all. I see my mother. I see Andrew Whitston. I see Charles Stain. I see Luna Kavnov. I see your grandfather."
I could see my reflection in her sunglasses. "You're not crazy." She shook her head. "No."
"I'm cursed."
"All right, time's up."
I jumped at the sound of the nurse's voice. Had it really been 20 minutes already? I got up and followed her out, down the hallway. "May I ask, why is Andrea wearing sunglasses indoors?"
Well, some blind people just do.
I stopped walking. "Andrea's blind?" The nurse stopped too and looked over at me.
Yeah, you didn't know?
I shook my head.
Yep. She's been blind for 41 years. Stabbed herself in the eyes when she was about 12. That's why they put her in here.
Wait, did you say 41 years? The nurse nodded. But she blinded herself when she was 12, and she's only about 48 now. The nurse gave me a confused look and shook her head slowly.
No. Andrea Stewart is 53.
But my grandfather said he met her in 1976, and she was about 5 or 6 years old at the time. That can't be right.
Well, maybe your grandfather was confused. Andrea Stewart was born in 1965.
I didn't want to keep arguing with the nurse, so I agreed. My grandfather had gotten it confused. But I knew he hadn't. He had told me that it was 1976 and that Andrea was about 5 or 6 at the time. I'm more confused than ever. Why would he lie? And how could he confuse all of those years like that? Was this the mother's doing? Did it somehow make him forget the years that things happened? I don't know what to do. If things didn't happen in the year that my grandfather remembers them happening, then what do I do with all the information that I have? I can't exactly look up the victims, even though Andrea seems to remember all of their names. My grandfather did say that everyone else has forgotten them. And what did she mean when she said that she saw all of them? Is she the mother? Does she know who the mother is? Why wouldn't she tell me if she did know? I'm sitting in a coffee shop right now. It's about 3:50 p.m. I noticed there was something in my front shirt pocket, so I pulled it out. It was a note that was not in my handwriting, and I don't remember having put it there, nor do I remember anyone else putting it there. On the piece of paper, it just says the name of a psychiatric hospital in Los Angeles. I've decided not to include it here. And a phone number. I called the number a few minutes ago, expecting it to be the number to the hospital, but it wasn't. I recognized the voice that picked up, though. It was Andrea.
Good. You found it.
How do you have a phone?
Witz and I were both patients at the hospital in Los Angeles, although he was obviously there before I was. Called and asked to speak to Nurse Connor,
She said, ignoring my question. Okay, why do I need to speak to Nurse Connor?
ask her about Winston. I have to go. Good luck. And remember the mother.
The line went dead after that. I haven't tried calling back. Something tells me that Andrea is not going to answer, and if she did, she would probably ignore my millions of questions. I decided to contact one of Rachel's sons, though. I'm not sure what I thought I would get out of them or if they would even answer, but I needed to know if the second man in the picture was Winston. I contacted her oldest son, Eric. I sent a message saying the following. Me. Hi, I knew your mother Rachel. She was a friend of my grandfather. His name was Lorenzo. I'm sorry for your loss. I was just speaking to your mother yesterday and I just wanted to ask you a question. I've attached a picture and I was wondering if the man on the left was Andrew Winston. I know this is an odd thing to ask, but I'd appreciate your help. Thank you. It's now been about 20 minutes since I sent that, and I finally got a reply from Eric. I'll transcribe what he replied below.
I don't know who you are, but if this is your idea of a joke, this isn't funny at all. I don't know anyone named Andrew Winston, and I don't know why you have that photograph. As for what you said about talking to my mother, that's a real bitch move. I don't know what you're doing here, but please, stop. I will call the police.
I stared at the message, confused. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I was wondering who that man was. Look, I didn't know your mother that well, but she knew a lot about my grandfather. I only spoke to her once yesterday. As I said, I'm sorry if I angered you.
This really isn't funny. I don't know who you are, but you obviously didn't know my mother at all as you're claiming to. There's no way you could have spoken to my mother yesterday. She killed herself 3 days ago.
I stared at that message for what felt like hours. Then I looked at the screenshots from the conversation that I had with Rachel. Yesterday's date was on the screenshots, Wednesday, November 14th, right at the top. So how was this possible? Was it possible that I was speaking to someone else? Who would know the things that Rachel knew? This is all getting very confusing for me. I don't have anything else to update for the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and call the hospital in LA later today. I've looked up the number and I've set a reminder on my phone. Until then, I think I need a nap. It's been about 2 hours now. I called the hospital in LA and I asked to speak to Nurse Connor, but the man who answered the phone told me that there wasn't a Nurse Connor there. I asked him if there had been a Nurse Connor maybe a few years ago, but he said the same thing. There had never been a Nurse Connor. Based on what I've learned so far, I'm thinking that the mother probably got to Nurse Connor as well. That or she never existed in the first place. Which then just makes no sense. Why would Andrea give me false information? I need help. I don't know what to do anymore. How do I even continue from here? I've gone in a full circle and I'm no closer to finding out what the mother is than I was a few days ago. I've gone back to rereading my grandfather's journals. I'm on the second one now, but there hasn't been anything new in this one either. I can't just sit here waiting for someone else to die and be forgotten, and I've even started thinking that maybe I've already forgotten someone. How am I supposed to remember when I'm not even sure of what I forgot? I've been forgetting a lot of things recently, but thanks to my reminders, my posts, and a lot of the comments you've been giving me, I also keep remembering them. I'm currently on the plane right now, on my way back home. I decided there was no point in staying even a day longer than necessary, so I'm currently on my way back home. I'm not sure what to think about Andrea. It does seem suspicious that she somehow knew that I would forget what happened in the room, and something tells me that she's not telling me everything that I forgot. I broke down and attempted to call the number that she gave me earlier, but it went straight to voicemail. Not that I was expecting anything different. I had brought 3 of my grandfather's journals with me in order to look them over on the flight, and I found something at the end of the second journal. It appeared to be pages from my grandfather's medical file. According to what I've read, my grandfather had been diagnosed with lung cancer 2 months before he died. He had declined treatment, so he knew he was going to die eventually. This struck me as odd. If he was going to die soon anyway, what was the reason for the mother to kill him? And why did he never tell me about the cancer? According to the file, the cancer had spread quite a bit, and they had given him a few more months to live. So why? Why waste time killing someone who's going to die anyway? Some of you think that the deaths are an offering of sorts, and if that is the case, then killing my grandfather makes sense, in a way. But then why wait so long to do it? Winston was killed within weeks of seeing the mother, yet it waited years before it killed my grandfather. I'm not sure how long it waited to kill Andrea's mother or any of the other victims, but the difference in the amount of time between Winston seeing the mother and his death, and my grandfather seeing it and his death, it's bothering me. Why wait so long? What was the point of that? If the mother is killing the people who remember her, why isn't Andrea dead? Why aren't I dead? And why did Rachel just recently die? Rachel knew about her the same amount of time as Winston and my grandfather. So what is the difference between them? I'm hoping that my grandfather has more information about Winston and Rachel. Maybe something that would help me to figure out the reasons between the difference in time of their deaths. I've been thinking about this over and over, and I seem to be getting nowhere. Were there more deaths before Andrea's mom? If so, how would I possibly find someone who remembers? Why didn't Andrea mention the babysitter? Did I even ask about her? What if I did and I forgot? Why wouldn't she tell me? What does Nurse Connor have to do with any of this, and how am I supposed to find her if no one remembers her? I feel as if my head is going to explode. I have a 2.5-hour flight, so I'm going to try and read through this third journal and see if there's anything in there that might help me. It's about an hour later. I took a nap and then read through the journal. I think I figured something out, and I'm scared that I'll forget it, so I've already written it down on my phone and transcribed it, and even set a reminder so that I won't forget. There was something wrong with Winston too. My grandfather had written about how Winston had been in a shootout a few years before all of this mother stuff went down. He had apparently witnessed his previous partner get shot to death when he was a fairly new officer. My grandfather seemed to think that Winston had a sort of mental disorder from this. My guess would be some sort of anxiety disorder, or maybe something similar. It doesn't say, and I'm also not a doctor, so this is just a guess. Seeing the mother maybe triggered him in some way. I would think that seeing a gross monster would have some sort of effect on that. And since he seemed to have some sort of mental breakdown right after encountering the mother, that could explain why he was killed. The mother killed Winston sooner because his mental disorder was affecting him in some way, the way that my grandfather's cancer was affecting him. But why those two? And what about Rachel? Was something wrong with her? There's no easy way for me to figure that out. She's dead and her son blocked me, so I'm not yet sure about that. If the mother is killing people who have some sort of illness, why isn't Andrea dead? She's blind and had a series of mental breakdowns when she was younger. I feel like I'm missing something, but what? Once I started thinking about this, other things started to bother me. If my grandfather forgot everything about the mother, as Rachel said, why didn't he forget the story that he told me? And why didn't I? He clearly had no problem remembering Andrea's name, the year, or even the mother itself. But then why don't his memories, like this starting in 1976, match up with what other people know, like Andrea being born in the 60s, making it impossible for her to be 5 or 6 in 1976 like my grandfather told me? I don't think the nurses would lie about Andrea's age, and she does look like she's in her 50s. I feel like I'm missing one key piece of information, something that I've already forgotten, something that I haven't even figured out. I also feel like I should address my mother's suicide. I don't know exactly how she killed herself. My dad told me that she had on my 16th birthday, but he was never specific about it, and I never wanted to push him to talk about something that was probably painful. However, now I'm thinking I might have to ask him about it. A lot of your theories are starting to make sense to me, and I just need to be sure that my mother wasn't a victim of the mother. It's been a few hours later now. I've been home for a bit, and I decided to ask my father about my mother's death. Turns out, she drove her car into a lake. Everyone still remembers this, so I'm assuming the mother had nothing to do with her suicide. I'm very relieved about this. I'd rather my mother had killed herself voluntarily than had been murdered by some supernatural being. My father forgot about Rachel already. I checked her Facebook page and her kids still seem to remember her, so I'm not exactly sure about how this whole forgetting the mother's victims thing works. I feel as though I'm just rambling and grasping for clues now. I've been reading through the rest of my grandfather's journals, but all I've come across so far are the details of Charles's and Luna's deaths. They're all things that I pretty much already knew. How they died and where they were found. Everything keeps coming back to Andrea. I'm starting to think you guys are right. She has to be much more involved in this. For starters, she's the only witness to the mother and one of the mother's victims who is still alive. She could speak, but she chooses not to. She's blind, but claimed she could somehow see all of the victims, and she even remembered their names, something that my grandfather didn't remember. But how do I find out what she's hiding? I can't exactly fly all the way back to New York just to ask her something that she probably won't even answer. She's also not picking up her phone. I could try to call the hospital and ask to speak to her, but everyone there thinks she can't hold a conversation, so the chances of them letting me attempt to speak to her are pretty slim. I'm all out of ideas now. I really need your help. Do any of you have any theories? I'm assuming none of you are being affected by this memory wipe that I keep experiencing, meaning that you all probably have a bit of a clearer view of this whole situation. I'd appreciate any theory now, no matter how outrageous it might sound to you. I don't know where else I can go looking for answers. I'm going to go and look through more of my grandfather's things. I'll update further if I come across anything else. I got a call from the hospital in Los Angeles where Andrea told me to look for Nurse Connor. It was the same man that I had spoken to earlier, and he was calling me to say that they had found a Nurse Connor. According to the man who I spoke to, Nurse Amelia Connor worked at the hospital from December of 63 to early February of 77, when she was murdered. But not by the mother. Amelia Connor was killed by her ex-boyfriend on her way home from work one night. After finding this out, I've been paying extra thought to the dates that have been happening. According to my grandfather, all of this started in November of 1976. But according to the nurse at the New York hospital, this is impossible because Andrea was born in 1965. My grandfather also said that Winston died a few months after seeing the mother. I'm assuming in January because Rachel gave me that month, but that means it would have been January of 77. But Rachel says it was the January of 76, which doesn't make any sense. Why did they each give me a different date? I'm starting to think that he may have given me different dates on purpose, but if so, how am I supposed to figure out what the real date is if no one can remember Winston? And what would be the purpose of giving me a fake year? I figured it out. I remember everything. I don't know when it all came back to me. It was kind of like one of those scenes in a movie where someone suddenly figures out the solution. I don't know how I remembered, but I know now. I know what's going on. I know what caused it, and I know who the mother is. I know what the mother is. They weren't sacrifices. At least, not really. They were hosts. A body for the parasite to invade. It's smart, much smarter than anyone knew, and it's been manipulating all of us from the very beginning. The mother is some sort of demon, yes, but one that needs a healthy, knowledgeable host in order to survive. I don't know the origin of this monster, or why it was created, but it was summoned by Andrea's mother in 1969. In November of the following year, Andrea's mother found out she was sick. She was going to die soon. So, the mother had to kill her first and find a replacement host. Winston was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But he too was flawed. His mental illness made him break down sooner than expected. The mother had to kill him too and find yet another host. Amelia Connor would have been fine if she had not been killed, that is. Then something went wrong with Charles. Then with Luna. Then the mother found a new host. A strong host, with more knowledge about her existence than any of the others. A host who had managed to remember it even after it had wiped his memory clean. The mother lived in my grandfather for years. But it knew he wasn't going to live forever. Sooner or later, the mother would have to find someone else. Someone who knew more than my grandfather. Someone who would be smart enough to stop themselves from completely forgetting. So it decided to start by coaching a child. By telling the story, my grandfather was giving me more knowledge of the mother. By giving me incorrect dates, he was avoiding the possibility of a memory wipe. He was making me a better host. He wanted it out, and the only way that was going to happen was if I knew more than he did, if I was stronger than he was. But his plan backfired when he was diagnosed with cancer. Who else was there? Who would be able to feed me information about the mother? Who would I believe? Rachel Winston. She was just collateral damage. She had to die so that the mother could then get into Andrea. Andrea knew enough about her.
Not everything, but she knew enough to make me the ideal host. She knew enough to fill in some of the blanks so that I would be able to figure the rest out on my own. Andrea has more to do with this. I know it because she didn't die when the mother transferred into a different host. But it won't let me say. It won't let me connect the dots. I think because it might help me to defeat it. This was all a plan. My grandfather, Rachel, Andrea, they were all just grooming me to become the ideal host. They thought it would also allow me to control it. But I can't. I don't know how. I saw it. It was every bit as grotesque as you would imagine. It's too late for me, but it isn't too late for any of you. Stop looking. Stop theorizing. Stop trying to figure it out. It's a trap. A trap that I led you into unknowingly, and I apologize for putting you all in danger. But I'm warning you now. Don't try to look for more answers. Don't try to solve this. Just leave it as it is. Forget the mother. Don't dig further, because as long as I know more than you do, she has to stay in me. I'm keeping details from you on purpose. It's to keep you all safe, to stop it from taking over anyone else. I shouldn't even be telling you anything else, but I felt as if I owed you some closure. Just please listen to my warnings. As long as I'm the best host, it's trapped in me. I can keep it there. As long as I know more, it has no choice but to stay here. I can feel it. It's dreadful. This feeling of wanting to tell someone, of wanting to get it out of me. It's overwhelming. I almost can't help it. But I will, because I know it's here. And I know it's watching. Hello, Mother.
Most heartfelt greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlethems. I eagerly welcome you to Sturgeon's most premier station, Dusklight Radio, hosted by yours truly, the effervescent, ethereal, and immersive Everett J. Blackwell. This phenomenal detective tale of forgotten cases and strange memories was crafted by NoSleep's top-ranked writer, Gaby Rivera, most famous for My Sugar Daddy Asks Me for Weird Favors and over 100 other phenomenal contemporary horror stories, hopefully more of which you'll see on the channel in the future. Please go and check out more of Gaby's work linked below and give her a shout out and show her the love for this phenomenal piece of work. Now, normally I'd go into my usual Blackwell spiel here, however, we're at the end of the video. If you've stuck around long enough, this is a sample of what our usual introductions to Dusklight transmissions are like. A link to one of our normal lengthy transmission videos is below. However, for the next 30 days as of December 15th, you will not be getting those introductions unless it is a special Sturgeon video, such as the next chapter in our ongoing series coming out before the new year. You see, we want to test out the algorithm to see how well YouTube responds to a regular series of posts. So we decided between myself and the wonderful Vidith to do a 30 in 30 challenge. 30 days, 30 videos, no days off, except for Christmas, which will make up on the schedule.
At the end of that time, we'll look at our metrics, see how well it's responded, if any new listeners have come to the station, and we can then make an informed decision about how we want to progress. I can tell you right now, however, that as of Season 6, in 2026 for Dusklight Radio, we will be going to 3 videos a week, an SCP video on Mondays, and normal, no sleep or creepypasta story on Wednesdays, and on Fridays we'll be doing something special. Every single month we'll be doing a compilation of our best stories from the month, and you'll also get a special feature-length Sturgeon or feature-length creepypasta story with immersive sound design, SFX, and voice acting. Very few things are going to be changing except the quality of our production. With that, I bring you to our outros, which are very important because this is the time where we thank all of our patrons for making this possible. If you want to sign up, it's as little as $1 a month and you get exclusive content, early access videos and stories, updates, and more. You can even suggest videos and stories for me to cover on the channel. But times are tough and we will always be grateful for your support no matter what form it comes in. Financial, spiritual, corporeal, maniacal, whatever you want. Either way, it really helps us out. And consider joining the Discord. We have a wonderful community at the listening station and we'd love to have you there. Dusklight gives thanks to, first, our Purple Crayon Eaters, Echo Kane, Gail Allstott, Alex, Mike, Candyman Gloving, Ashabel, Amara, Phi, Max, and Feeny Von Kama. Our janitors, Allie, Shane Lewis, Dux, Joy Flint Healy, Sabine Eclipse, Death 31, Scott, Heather Cayley, Adrian R., Amy, Arkham Cookie, and Alex Nunez. Our nightmare detectives, Deliria, Melanie Schaefer, and Fox Clifford. Our void walkers, Josh Woods and Professor Creepypasta. And of course, our Blackwell family. Great Uncle Ven Blackwell, who really seems to be hanging around the furnishings lately. I could swear that I've seen him trying to reanimate something from in the wallpaper. He keeps stroking it softly and saying, "Hush, little one, soon you can be free." Ethan Blackwell, the master of repo and infuriating the outer gods alongside his BFF, Jimmy. Jackal Blackwell, the scourge of gas station sushi outlets. Clue Blackwell, the twisting, shambling horror. Tabitha Blackwell, wearing a muscle tee with Kaio's face as a skull she smashed, declaring herself the Spine Queen. And of course, Papa Kaio Blackwell, preparing his greatest weapon, the Spine Lord, and his many, many legions of bone fragments. We love and fear you, Papa, and we thank you humbly for your patronage and look to see you bright and early for Dusklight orientation. Purple crayons and existential dread will be provided. And one last time, listeners, close your eyes and breathe with me. Remember, no matter how bad things are, how cruel people can be, and how heavy your shoulders may feel with the weight of the world bearing down on them, Dusklight will always be here to lift the load and provide you with some respite. Drink some hot cocoa with chocolate sprinkles and fat marshmallows. Have some s'mores. Watch a video about liminal spaces and sleep on the cool side of the pillow with the window open and the stars twinkling down on you. Start and end each day with kindness in your heart. You matter, you are loved, and every day is another chance. I'll see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.